So we're using that other one. So I want to talk just a little bit really quickly about our learning goals. So that way we can understand what you are responsible for learning. Okay? So if we look, there are two learning goals. I can identify major leaders and empires of Mesopotamia. So here's the deal. That one should be pretty easy for us to understand what to do. Okay? You are identifying who the leaders are. You're being able to name them. You're being able to describe who those leaders are and who the main empires were. So, if you've been looking at your study guides, this should be kind of helpful because you will have seen names like Sargon, Hammurabi, Cyrus, Darius or Darius. Okay? Those names, that's going to be the people, the major leaders you're going to need to know about. So, you're going to need to know what empire each of those guys went with. Okay? In your study guide, you've also seen the names of some empires. You've seen like Babylon or Babylonian. You've seen Sumer or Samaria. You've seen Persia, right? You've seen these city-states, these empires. So, the first learning goal is you need to be able to identify the leaders and the empires. That means you're going to know the leaders' names. You're going to need to know what they were the empire of. That sort of thing. You're going to need to know what these empires were and kind of where they were. Okay? Does that first learning goal make sense?
Yes.
So, not to be rude, but I did not buy those for you to do your nails. They are for academic purposes. Our second learning goal. I can evaluate Mesopotamian leaders' accomplishments. Okay? This is the one where you have to think a little bit more. Because you're going to have to evaluate what they did. Now, if we look at our chart over here, evaluate can mean three different things in school, depending on the context. So, evaluate can mean that you are establishing the amount, how much of something people have. Evaluate can mean establishing the importance. Why was it important? Why do we care? Evaluate can mean establishing the effectiveness. How well did this thing work? Right? How well did this civilization work? How good of a leader was this? So again, when Mr. Seymour says that we are going to evaluate Mesopotamian leaders' accomplishments, it could be one or more of three things that I am asking you to do. So we got to figure out which ones are going to make sense for this class, right? So the first one, establish the amount. How much? Does that sound like it would make sense for a social studies class, for what we're doing now with our learning goal? No. I can establish how much leaders' accomplishments. Does that even sound like it makes sense? No. No. So for this class, for right now, and again, could this change if we do another learning goal?
Yes.
Yeah, if I were to say something like, I can evaluate the amount of trade goods that Mesopotamians had, how much would make sense with that statement, wouldn't it? But it doesn't make sense with this. So we're not trying to figure out how much. So the second thing that we might be talking about is importance. I can establish the importance. So let's see if that makes sense. I can establish the importance of Mesopotamian leaders' accomplishments. Does that sound like it makes sense? What do we think? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Table here, what do you all think? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, for this one, you need to be able to tell me the importance. That's definitely one of the things we're going to evaluate. So there's one more. Effectiveness. How successful were they? How good were they at what they did? So let's see if that makes sense. I can establish how successful Mesopotamian leaders' accomplishments were. Does that make sense? Does that sound like it'd be a learning goal? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So, when we are talking about evaluating our Mesopotamian leaders and their accomplishments, what Mr. Seymour really needs for you to know, what you need to be able to show me that you can do, is you can establish why these leaders are important. Tell me why Hammurabi is important for history. Tell me why Sargon is important for history. Tell me why Darius is important for history. Also, you need to be able to tell me, were they successful? Why or how was Hammurabi successful at being a leader? Why or how was Sargon successful at being a leader? Why or how were Cyrus and Darius successful at being leaders? Okay, so does that make sense for what I'm asking you to do?
Yes.
Cool. To help us learn about this, there's a video we're going to watch. It's actually a song, and honestly, it is like a social studies teacher classic song. It's one of those, if you teach this subject and you don't play the song, I'm pretty sure you get like fired or in trouble by your principal. So this song is by a guy named Mr. Nicky. And I have to be honest, this song is a little bit triggering for me because it's set to the tone of Crank That by Soulja Boy. And remember, I told you about my Achilles rupture at the wedding before, so we're not going to rehash that story. But the fact that I'm playing this song should let you know how much I care, right? So we're going to kind of listen to the song. First time we listen to it, you are just going to watch and listen. The words are important. Second time through, we'll kind of be taking some notes on it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome.